Sri J. Ramchandra Garu, and Vice Chairman Bar Council of Telangana, Sri K. Sunil Gaud Garu, the members Bar Council of India, Sri P. Vishnuvardhan Reddy Garu, and public prosecutors, the Advocate General, the government leaders, assistant government leaders, and standing councils, and all the members of the association. Very good evening to all. And the esteemed senior advocates present here, the members of the legal fraternity, and respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Telangana High Court Advocates Association, I hereby welcome you all the association to hear a lecture on widening horizons, emerging challenges for bar and the bench by Honorable Sri Justice Sri P.S. Narasimha Garu, Judge Supreme Court of India. Now invite our association president Sri V. Raghunath Garu, please adorn the chair on the dais. Now I invite our Honorable Chief Justice Sri Ujjal Bhuyan Garu to adorn the chair on the dais. Now I request Sri Suman, Joint Secretary, on behalf of to the honors and present the bouquet to the Honorable Chief Justice Sri Bhuyan Garu. Now I invite our Honorable Chief Guest Sri Justice P.S. Narasimha Garu, Supreme Court of India, to adorn the chair on the dais. Now I request Sri G. Mallareddy, the Secretary of the Association, on behalf of to do the honors and present the bouquet to Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Justice Sri P. Narasimha. Now I request the Honorable President to preside over the function.
Hold this here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Before a session, we're extremely sorry for my friends who are standing, couldn't able to accommodate due to the space. Good evening to all. Our Honorable Distinguished Justice Sri Narasimha, Honorable Chief Justice Sri Ujjal Bhuyan Garu, Honorable Judges of our Telangana High Court, Learned Advocate General, Solicitor General and Learned Public Prosecutor, our Telangana Bar Council Chairman, Sri Narasimha Reddy Garu, and many other senior counsels, and one of our invite distinguished invitee, Sri Krishna Dev Rao, who is the Vice Chairman of, Vice Chancellor of Nalsar, who has also joined with us today. All the esteemed judges and my friends. Friends, you all know that after the new committee has come into existence, we thought that we need a series of lectures, at least once in a month, to be organized in the Bar Association, taking all consideration of issues which can enlighten the bar, and also it can also give a wonderful message to the bench also. In that process, we are conducting consistently certain lectures by the eminent people. Of course, we have done it a very few, but I hope that this would continue forever. And this time, last time when Honorable Supreme Court Judge retired Justice L. Nageshwara had come, we had on social justice. It was very successful lecture, and in the same way it had taken place. Friend, this time we thought something which is a very current issue, which is required to be addressed. And with our request immediately, without there being any time lapse, Honorable Justice Narasimha Supreme Court Judge has accepted graciously and promptly said that definitely I'll come to our bar. This is my bar. Practiced here and I must visit. And in fact, we know that very traditionally, when we organize a lecture, timely coming at 4, whatever time we fix. But the sir said very clearly that no, it should not be very traditional. I want to have an exchange of my views with the My friend has taken a job. If I miss anything, he will just tell me. So friends, this is how we have been organizing. So today, we are so happy the entire Bar Association, even including senior advocates, around 3:30, had spent a wonderful time with the senior counsels and also had spent a lot of time in the Bar Association, then had a little carom board with us and visited the library. This is how, before the session, it had taken place. Needless to say that big introduction is not required for Honorable Justice Sri Narasimha. Born in Hyderabad, brought up in Hyderabad, studied in Nizam College, and entire, of course, when once in a very private talk, the sir has exchanged that ఎప్పుడన్నా సెలవులు వస్తే చాలామంది మన మిత్రులంతా ఊర్లలోకి వెళ్ళిపోతారు. పతంగుల పండుగ వచ్చినా, సంక్రాంతి వచ్చినా, నాకు ఊరు లేకపోయింది, హైదరాబాద్లోనే ఉండేవాడిని, ఎవరన్నా ఒక ఊరికి పోవాలనేటటువంటి తపన ఉండేదని చెప్పేవాళ్ళు. ఇదే పాత బస్తీలో పతంగులు ఎగిరేసినటువంటి వ్యక్తి, ఇదే ప్రాంతంలో ఆడుకున్నటువంటి వ్యక్తి. 1990s with a great passion shifted to Supreme Court. చాలా ఉన్నతమైనటువంటి వ్యక్తి. తన తండ్రి మనందరికీ తెలిసి ఇక్కడ జడ్జిగా చేశారు. మీరంతా కూడా కోదండరామయ్య గారు, జస్టిస్ కోదండరామయ్య గారి గురించి చాలామంది సీనియర్లకు తెలుసు కదా, యంగ్స్టర్స్ తెలిసో తెలియదు కానీ చాలా ఉన్నతమైనటువంటి, ఉత్తమమైనటువంటి, వెరీ ఫైనెస్ట్ పర్సన్, వెరీ హ్యూమనిస్టిక్. హిస్ ఫ్యామిలీ హ్యాస్ నౌ గివెన్ a lot of contribution to the Indian judiciary. What I strongly feel when I see him and inspired that జడ్జి కన్నా ఎక్కువ కూడా తను లాయర్గానే ఇష్టపడతారు జస్టిస్ నరసింహ గారు. కొన్ని సందర్భాలలో బెంచ్ మీద నుంచి తను జడ్జి అనేది మర్చిపోయి కూడా మెలాడ్ అని మాట్లాడినటువంటి సందర్భాలు కూడా చాలా ఉన్నాయి. మేడం ప్లీజ్. కూర్చో. Now this lectures which I don't want to take much time because you all know a lot of contribution is there when Justice Narasimha was a lawyer arguing a very notable and a very reputed cases, and that has given him a big opportunity, was invited to become the judge of the Supreme Court. In this context, why we have chosen this, the relationship between the bench and bar is very, very important. You know, unless there is a tightrope or a cordial relationship between the bench and bar, the effective administration of justice cannot be done. And I want to tell you one thing, that if I see the history, whenever there is an assault on the judiciary, the only bars rise to an occasion and opposed and condemned and stood on behalf of the judges. This we should never forget that. ప్రత్యేకించి తెలంగాణలో బహుశా ప్రపంచంలో ఎక్కడ జరిగినటువంటిది, I just recall you all because some of them may not know. When the lawyers have gone on this strike on the march, they have literally, all the district judges have marched from assembly to the marchers there, and there was a serious disciplinary action against the judges. Then the lawyers stood on behalf of them and they fought against that, and ultimately all the judges were resumed back into their offices. This is the contribution of the Telangana lawyers. Friends, so that is the reason the relationship should be very effective. And what all happening in, what all the unrest among the bar, as a president, I have to represent before the bench. I have to represent before the Honorable Chief Justice, and I have to convey them what is happening. Of course, in a recent past, there are certain few things which were disturbed. It can be rectified. Because you all know that this newborn state, where the aspiration of Telangana lawyers are more important and more required to be addressed. This is an aspiration of the people of here. So certain recommendations which are made, it has disappointed. So this can also be rectified, and further we should go in a very positive way, so that the jurisprudence or administration of justice go further well. Friends, on this occasion, you know, there is also a very well contribution by our learned Advocate General on behalf of the state, because he is also more concerned with organizing certain lectures, and you know, the Bar Association is not so economically strengthened also, for which we are also getting contributions from various quarters of the friends. Now, before our chief guest, Justice Narasimha, speaks, gives the lectures, I request Sri Honorable Chief Justice Ujjal Bayan to say a few words. Then we'll follow. I request Sri Ujjal Bayan, please, come and say a few things.
Respected Honorable Chief Justice P.S. Narasimha, Judge, Supreme Court of India, my esteemed sister and brother judges of the Telangana High Court, Mr. B.S. Prasad, Learned Advocate General for the State of Telangana, Mr. A. Narasimha Reddy, Chairman Bar Council of Telangana, Mr. Raghunath, Senior Advocate and President of Telangana High Court Advocates Association, Deputy Solicitor General of India, distinguished senior advocates who are present in large numbers today, members of the bar, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to all of you. I, on behalf of myself and on behalf of the legal fraternity of the state of Telangana, profusely thank Justice Narasimha for having accepted the invitation to address us on the topic, a very contemporary topic, widening horizons, emerging challenges for the bar and the bench. Justice Narasimha needs no introduction. I was told, and I have, with nowadays the internet is there, so you can search, you can do your Google homework and find out. Justice Narasimha was born on 3rd May 1963 to Justice Kodanda Ramaiah, who was also a judge of the Andhra Pradesh High Court and an eminent legal scholar. Justice Narasimha was brought up in Hyderabad. He graduated with triple majors in economics, political science and public administration from Nizam College, Hyderabad, and thereafter pursued law at the Campus Law Center, New Delhi, Delhi University. In 1988, he was enrolled as an advocate and started practice before the High Court of Andhra Pradesh and various courts here at Hyderabad. Thereafter, he moved to Delhi to practice in the Supreme Court. In the course of his practice, he has appeared in a number of important cases, including before the constitution benches of the Supreme Court. He was designated as a senior advocate by the full court of the Supreme Court of India in the year 2008. As a senior advocate, he appeared in many cases involving constitutional, administrative and environmental issues, particularly in matters relating to telecom, competition, electricity and other regulatory jurisdictions. He was appointed as the Additional Solicitor General of India in 2014. He assisted the court as a law officer in several landmark cases, including the Anzac case before the Constitution bench. He is also known for his work in the Ayodhya title dispute and as an amicus in the matter relating to the Cricket Control Board of India. He also represented the Indian side in the Italian marine case at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. His Lordship was elevated as a judge of the Supreme Court of India directly from the bar on 31st August 2021. As a lawyer of 35 years of standing, Justice Narasimha can feel the pulse of the bar, and he can see and he can have the perspective of the bar. Now, as a judge of the highest court of the country, he has the benefit of the other perspective. Therefore, Justice Narasimha is eminently the most suitable person to speak on the emerging challenges before the bar and the bench. He is our very own. He is there in the Supreme Court. We all look towards him for guidance. Any difficulty that we face, we always look towards him as our very own in Delhi. All of us here are eagerly waiting to hear Justice Narasimha. I will not come in the way. I warmly welcome Justice Narasimha and request him to address the gathering. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to invite our chief guest, Sri Narasimha Garu, to present the lecture.
Honorable Chief Justice Ujjal Bhuyan, sister and brother judges of my High Court, President of the Bar, Raghunath, Chairman of the Bar Council, Telangana Bar Council, my dear senior advocates, advocates at the bar, Registrar General, Vice Chancellor of Nalsar, other supporting staff, press, media, and everybody present here. Dear Advocate General and the President, I must commence by thanking you for inviting me to speak and interact with the members of the bar. This is not like any other bar for me. This is truly a memorable journey in my life as a lawyer and now as a judge, to be coming back to this very institution almost 35 years after I have enrolled here. This is certainly an emotional moment, as I am inextricably connected to this institution from my birth. My father practiced here, and I grew up hearing my father narrating anecdotes and incidents about this court to his friends, sometimes to my mother and sometimes to us. Interestingly, perhaps I am far more connected to this institution than many of you, because I was born within the campus of this High Court. There was this Judji Khana having a maternity ward here, and fortunately my brother related it to me that I was born at Judji Khana, which is now the parking space for lawyers. And now don't blame me if in the morning you don't get a space to park your car. Everything I have or acquired is in this city. Friends, I owe everything to my parents. One solitary thing that my father instilled in me, which rests very firmly in my heart, is to believe in my inner strength and not to rely on anything outside the power of the will. His life is a blueprint for me. It's difficult for me to encapsulate my identity in detail, except to tell you in the shortest little words that are possible that I am nothing without him. Yet I would say that a phenomenal thing he has taught all of us, all his children, is to live like a monarch even without having 10 rupees in your pocket. He has also shown and demonstrated how one could do charity without owning any money. It's all in the mind. It's in the power of the will. He set an example without teaching us. If I am nothing without my father, I am complete, I must say, only with the love and affection that I got from my mother, both my brothers and my sisters. That is the first identity, I should say, I have acquired about myself. I remember August 1988 when I got enrolled in the then combined state Andhra Bar Association. Justice Kadri addressed us on that date. And I had the good fortune of being guided by my brother Raghuram, who was my first senior. And he introduced me to the technique of persuasion. I keep trying to imbibe his sobriety. As I entered the bar, the great leaders of this bar, particularly those who came from Telangana, who were told to us, referred to us. I want to share those names because professionally we grew after hearing what they did in the court, how they handled some matters. This is a duty that I have. Please bear with me. Many of you might not even have heard those names, but the minimum that we can do is to do that much smaran of those seniors who adorned this court. Manohar Prasad ji was later a judge. I saw Mr. Shivashankar appearing once in this court. Upendra Lal Wagre was in that court, and I had the good fortune of appearing in one matter before him. Sardar Ali Khan became a judge. Gopal Rao Idboti is another very famous lawyer, which we must remember. ML Ramkrishna Rao was a doyen of the civil court. His son Harsha is practicing here. I wanted to get an exposure of some civil court practice, so I was with him for a while. Zalil Ahmad ji, AK Vidya, Narasimha Chari, CM Deshmukh. Of course, Konda Madhav Reddy Garu. He was a colleague of my father, and as I enrolled and came here, I had that desire to somehow go to the Supreme Court and practice there. And it so happened that having demitted office as the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, as well as the chairman of the First Administrative Tribunal, he wanted to set up practice in Delhi, so at some request I joined him. After my first bout of exposure of the Supreme Court through Mr. Kuldeep Singh, who later became a judge of the Supreme Court itself directly. Also, I should remember the doyen of the bar, Mr. Narsaraj Garu. Vishwanath Shastri was a judge of this court, famously practiced in Supreme Court. Mr. Ram Reddy was practicing, and in Supreme Court, I could see him. Tall, impressive man. The judges of this court who made great name in the Supreme Court, Justice Jagan Mohan Reddy, part of the Kesavananda Bharati, Jayachandra Reddy Garu, of course Ramaswamy. I had the good fortune of appearing before him in a number of cases in the Supreme Court. Then Justice Jeevan Reddy, Justice Khadri, as I had indicated, Venkatram Reddy Garu, Jagannath Rao, Sudarshan Reddy Garu. Subhash, I will just come to you in a while. I saw the legendary Y. Surya Narayana appearing in this court. Before that, let me just tell you, as I entered, interestingly, we had yet another doyen of the bar, P. Ramchandra Reddy. Greatness about him is his brevity. He had multiple rings on his finger, cover half his lips, and after long argument of the other side, he would just state few things, move his fingers and then sit down. And then he would meticulously write on his brief the outcome of the submissions made by both the parties. Ananta Babu Garu, another doyen of the bar, I was standing somewhere there, and one of the judges were retiring, so he was speaking from that corner, and he was relating and telling the bar that there are 3 stages in a judge's life. Stage 1 is when the judge is not at all confident whether he is right or wrong. Then the judge moves on to the stage 2, where he is confident that he is right. And then comes the 3rd stage, when he doesn't really care whether he is right or wrong. Then he comforted the judge by telling him that fortunately our judge has retired just immediately after the second stage. So he was so articulate and excellent lawyer that he was. I saw Padmanabha Reddy, and I will tell you, when I am speaking about the subject of the day, how he stood as an example for us. Mr. H.S. Gururaja Rao was also a doyen in the service bar. He also practiced in the Supreme Court. Recently he has authored a book on Kashmir. Y. Surya Narayana is another competitor for him on service branch. When Y. Surya Narayana and H.S. Gururaja Rao would compete in service matters on aspects relating to bifurcation and other things. Kannabiran, an extraordinary man. About him I got to know, not in this court, but after having shifted to Supreme Court. He is well recognized all over the country for his contribution and his writings. Let me digress a little bit and say that one statement is that what did the Constitution do to us? I suddenly remembered, I thought it's a good thing that I should share with you. Prior to the constitutions, all of us in India were subjects of the state. The transition after the enactment of the Constitution is that we are now citizens. There is a world of difference between a person being a subject of a state and a citizen under a state. We will leave it at that. Pratap Reddy Garu was there, Bojja Tarakam, Vedula Jagannath Rao, B.S.S. Swami, who later became a judge. I must remember E. Manohar, who was certainly a leader of the bar. He was the Advocate General. So was Mr. V.R. Reddy. His contribution was again phenomenal, and we need to be proud of the fact that he belongs to this court and belongs to this state. Being a chairman of the Bar Council of India, he was one of those who started the concept of National Law School. Mr. Krishnadev Rao will vouchsafe for that, which led to the establishment of the very first law college, National Law School at Bangalore, and that triggered the establishment of large number of national law schools through a statutory mechanism. And all that contribution goes solitarily to Mr. V.R. Reddy, and we must be proud of that. What really impressed me when I came here, walking around in this very hall, was what I call the Gen Next, the generation next. Young set of lawyers who are doing exceedingly well, almost all of them belonging to the same age. They are very friendly, well read, up to the mark, highly competent. Fortunately, I could mix with all of them because they were more or less the same age group of my brother. And I would like to name them for the affection and continued guidance that I got from them. There were Mr. C. Mohan Reddy, I don't know where he is, D.V. Sitaram Murthy. Both of them became Advocates General of this bar. Adinarayan Rao, L. Nageshwar Rao. This proves my point about the Gen Next. He had meteoric success. I couldn't have imagined at any point of time that time will come when I would be sitting with him on a bench in the Supreme Court and both of us would be hearing matters. As I saw him here and we would have a cup of tea, that thought never occurred to me. So that is how life is. Though I didn't share a bench with Justice N.V. Ramana Garu, I will fondly remember that I was sworn in as a judge by him when he was the Chief Justice of India, coming from the same bar. Subhash Reddy was practicing here when I just got enrolled. He inherited he got a lot of practice after Subhashan had become a judge, and he would be busily running between the courts. And again, I'm fortunate to have him on the bench when I was a judge of the Supreme Court, judge of the Supreme Court. Addepalli Surya Narayana, then the Vedula brothers, as I would call them. Nuti Rammohan was here. S. Ravi, I liked his diction and I would watch him. Prakash Reddy, so much to learn from him. Chella Subbarao, please pardon me if I had missed out one or two names here and there. It's only because of the hurry in which I jotted the names which came to me as a first impression. I also need to remember names of some persons, some of our colleagues who passed away unfortunately at an early age, like VLNGK Murthy, Jagdish, what a friend he was, P.R. Prasad, T.S. Anand, S.R. Ashok. We lost some of them. I lost very many friends practicing in the Supreme Court during the unfortunate COVID moment. We will have only memories so far as they are concerned, and as I decided to shift practice to Supreme Court, Boppa Vijay Lakshmi presented me a shorter constitution of India, which I kept fondly for a long time. Shobha was here, good practice in MMRD matters. Shesha Rajyam Garu was well known on the criminal side and a public prosecutor for a long time. Bhaskar Lakshmi Garu, Chaya Devi are the names which immediately come to my mind. And amongst the youngsters at that time, Niranjan was junior of K. Pratap Reddy. And it's nice to see that he has grown over a period of time and doing well. And new blood has come in, new juniors are coming in, need a hand holding. We had a small group of friends here, myself with G. Mohan Rao, Satya Srinivas, Sanjay, as you call him, Justice Sanjay Kumar, K.S. Murthy, but we would go down to that Babji's canteen to have a cup of chai every day. This much of an introduction about my duty to relate and tell you about the persons that I interacted as I entered the bar. This expression, practice, as we keep referring to in this profession, is a good word. Sadhana, as one would call it. So we practice law, so to say, really meaning that we practice, interestingly, as a team, because lawyer is not an individual, he can't work by himself. This practice is as a team, and the best part of this practice is for the purpose of finding out what the truth is. This is the sum and substance of this profession. That is the reason why this is one of the greatest professions. We all practice for the sole purpose of finding out what exactly is the truth, and the necessity comes because truth can't be found except through a process. The only process that known to human beings is the process of adversarial litigation, as we say. My 33 years of practice as a lawyer and 18 months as a judge lets me share with you that in its essentiality, and in its core, there is really speaking no difference between the two. You must recognize that. As a lawyer, I thought I am placing before the judge one perspective of truth or a fact, and it is for him to take. Now, as a judge, I take the help of a lawyer to choose between 2 or 3 perspectives of truth and rest my judgment at a place which I think is closest to the truth. I am trying to simplify what we all do as a judge and as a lawyer, and as we look at this process, you would know that there is really speaking no difference between the two, because we work as a team. So, profession is the best, practice is the best, purpose is the best, object is the same. Then what next? What needs to be done is the question. How do we better it? What are the actions to be undertaken, and what are the challenges before us, both for the bar and the bench? This is what I wanted to talk to you. As I say, widening horizon. I didn't want to talk to you by referring to quotations of Denning or from foreign judgments, relate to a concept and things like that, because this, I think, is a burning topic. We must take it up. There are challenging issues for the bar and the bench, and we must deal with them urgently, as we are in a kind of an emergency situation. I am emphasizing the expression emergency situation because you all know the pendencies before the courts, which has rendered judicial process irrelevant to many people. We come, sit for a couple of hours and go away. How much of pendencies are getting cleared? How much of release people are getting? Who are getting? Whether real stakeholders are getting or not. Very, very serious issue that we must ponder about it. I thought I will discuss with you, being trained as a specially petition lawyer, we have the tendency to cut short things, concise, make it point wise, because jurisdiction shapes you many a times. So the 5 to 6 points I will place before you. First is the disconnect, as I would call, between the bar and the bench. The second relates to the professional independence. The third issue relates to identities that our clients carry and the obligations that we have to ensure those identities are restored, so much so that the dignity is brought back to them. I will explain that in a moment. Then I will also tell you that there is a need to decentralization and there is a need for access to justice and adaptation of alternative remedies to ensure that disposals take place as fast as possible. And then we will look at the concept of a remedy itself. You go from court to court. Civil court says go to tribunal. Tribunal says that why is this petition maintained here? Why did you come here? Go and file a suit. And then a writ court says that go somewhere else. What is this concept of remedies? I mean, are lawyers only pigeonholing remedies? Is there anything that we can look for future to cut this? So much so that the process of litigation comes down, and this is yet another horizon that we must look at. And finally, I'll tell you that all this is possible and easier through adaptation of technology. These 5 or 6 things which I have narrated to you, everything relates to and involves the working of a lawyer, working of a judge. The first one, which I said about the disconnect, the freedom that a lawyer enjoys is that he argues the matter before the court effectively in order to protect his client, and the moment the submission is over, his work is done. And I enjoyed that freedom for 33 years. And that's the best part of it, because the profession expects that. And after I became a judge, because I'm perhaps the best person to tell you, having had the best of the experiences in recent times, that after having become a judge, I realized that there is a disconnect in the approach adopted by a lawyer, that he would make his submission and then leave it that, having no connection to the ultimate product of judicial process. A decision which is good or bad, the lawyer must take half the responsibility. That can clearly indicate that the role adopted by a lawyer in the judicial process, the judgment being a cryptic or a detailed judgment on facts or law, whatever it may be, the decision arrived has a direct bearing on the role that a lawyer undertakes and then performs before the court. So the question therefore is that it is a shift that we need to make from that of a freedom of a profession to that of a duty bearing. If we recognize that the judicial, the process of advocacy has a duty bearing eventually to the product of judicial process where judgment is delivered, then I don't need to tell you, all of you will adopt that kind of an approach which will enable the judge to ensure that the judgment is delivered in a manner which is the best product available through the process of justice. That much you must remember. So therefore the key word I would say, bridge the gap. You must bridge the gap, as there seems to be a disconnect. Then how does one do that? This takes me to the second point about professional independence. This is the aspect which has a bearing on the first point that I have made. Professional independence is far more important, let's say equally important to that of judicial independence. We don't talk of professional independence. When I say professional independence, I don't talk about the Bar Council of India being a regulator as against a civil court regulating or a court regulating the conduct of a lawyer. Then where does that regulation or the professional independence comes in? You should all recognize, judges will of course know, because the professional roles, as Adam Smith says, that you do a work so repeatedly that you many a times forget the purpose and object of what you are doing. As a lawyer, the conduct is far more difficult than that of a judge. The reason is this. I have written it down, I will read it to you. Independence by legal profession is even more difficult, since professional must balance the duty towards his justice administration coupled with his commitment to the client, and at the same time withstand the economic and political pressures. A client with his wealth can tempt you, a wealthy client can tempt you, enable you to make an argument. If you say, you may give me higher fees, but this is not proper for me to say, you have exercised your professional independence. That's the power you have. That's the volition you have. That is where the professional independence comes in. That's the tipping point between doing this great job of advocacy routinely or entertaining this practice or sadhana with the object of professional independence. We have cases, we have lawyers and lawyers who tell us that after a point I said, no, I can't take this that far. That's the example I was telling you about Padmanabh Reddy, who told him that, somebody told him, a briefing counsel, that this is the big case so in which you can charge such and such fees in a bail matter. He said, sorry, my fees in a bail matter is just this much. That's it. That's where you draw a line. And these lines are not drawn by external methodologies. These lines are drawn in the heart, where we must be very clear where the professional aspiration takes you, and at the same time where the professional duty stops you. Drawing the line, that's all. That makes all the difference. Political influence, again, yet another topic. I just spoke to you about the economic influence, because we all deal with clients and clients and clients, rich clients and poor clients too, where in a legal aid matter, how far you go. Many of us, I want to believe, that go a little extra mile to do something extra when they are talking about, when they are doing a legal aid matter. All of us do. It is inherent in our heart. I am a die-hard believer that we are one of the best civilization in the world. And I want all of you to continue to believe in that. As human beings, we are told and repeatedly told by a script written by somebody else that our standards are low, or that we are just like that. Past is past. This is what you must think about as times to come, that we are the best people. And this is where I would exercise my volition and then proceed further and be and show and demonstrate the professional independence. Political, I'll just complete that. Political independence comes in when you exercise the power. It's very tempting when somebody offers you standing counselship, government leadership. These are very tempting. It's insidious. It enters the profession. It can have the tendency of dividing the bar too. But this again, your first enrollment is of a lawyer. The second enrollment, if at all, is to your ideology. Further enrollments are towards your political alignments. You will have to balance. You will have to balance. The choice you have made, because you have enrolled as a lawyer, that birthmark cannot be erased. That birthmark remains irrespective of whether you have an ideology, you have allegiance to a political party. We have the freedom to join any political party. There is no difficulty on that. But then the time will come when you will have to balance it. This is the place where what you need to do is actually balance. The second, first is to bridge the gap. Second is to do the balance. The third, I hope I am not exceeding the time. 10 minutes. On a Friday, it's actually torturous to, I quite understand, to stop you from going home. I never used to stay and work on a Friday after the last case is over. The third aspect of it is something which is very dear to my heart, is identities. You know, lawyers perform an extraordinary role in influencing the interpretation of laws. Freedom movement led us to get back the territory. We got the physical territory of our country, but still we haven't got the freedom, because what's called is decolonialization has to take place, which is that even though the physical territory was gained back, the mental territory is continued to be subjugated. So how do you get rid of the colonial mentality which we have inherited? Our parents, most of our parents were in the cusp of independence movement. They were pre-independence and post. Most of us are post-independent, second generation. Yet another generation is our children, who are far more confident than us. It took 70 years, but still most of our laws are replete with colonialistic approaches. Only a lawyer can, through the process of interpretation, recognize where it is actually an affront to our own language, our own culture, our own living, our own civilization, and then proceed to interpret before the court, saying that this has to be interpreted in a different manner. It is your ability to do that will lead to the court giving declarations of laws which are closer to people, or else we are more alien. What does that require? That requires the lawyer to be more integrated with the people, more integrated with their culture, their aspirations, their language. There are so many words and vocabulary is replete with expressions which will not include an identity of our people. So if you use English and you use that language, you are actually, by that very process, alienating the people away from their land. The interpretation will necessarily lead to that. So therefore there is an obligation, yet again, to, I would call this, to bring dignity. Because identity, if you identify, give an identity to a person, you are giving dignity to the person. In a way, the Telangana movement is also a process of identity. It brought about dignity. I think most of us would agree with me. This is what it does. The lawyer's contribution is also there. That kind of an approach is necessary for interpretation of laws, and you are the duty holders so far as that aspect of interpretation of law is concerned. The recent decision of the court on the administrative side to translate judgments into Telugu is definitely a step in that direction. We have to create a necessary vocabulary. We have to introduce Telugu in our district courts. I was discussing with the Advocate General that identify 4 of our districts in our state, far and wide, and identify, the Vice Chancellor is here, this is my request, that introduce Telugu in law teaching. Don't start law colleges, Telugu law colleges. Introduce Telugu in law teaching. Give an option to the student. He might want to be learning law through a teacher who is teaching in English, in Telugu, then that requires you to create a system of